Hello and welcome back to the channel. To all my friends, potential subs, potential viewers, and welcome back to the channel. And today is going to be a little bit of a rant, so to speak. As noted in my last video, I have a Scarlet Crusade guild, and near the end of that video, I made an idea to do a sort of rant video while I kind of also jabber on about other things too, pertaining to probably WoW and other things, just to kill the time, you know, and to make the video. So I will start off by saying I believe that WoW's lore on the Scarlet Crusade is garbage. Now, I say this with every sense of the word. I think it's garbage. When they were first introduced, it was fine. They were a zealous, lore, light fanatics that wanted to purge the undead and believed that other races too had the curse of undeath in them, which made them sort of kind of crazy justified to do it. It was only later found out that Lord Dethrahan, the leader of the Scarlet Crusade, was actually a dreadlord filling the hearts and minds of these remnants of Lordran, these refugees turned, to the light to try to hope to regain their lost home. In every sense of the word, they sought to purge the undead so that they could make their home once again. And it left a lot to the lore that I found enjoyable. A lot of people just go, oh, these are just crazy fanatics who believe the light, who wants to purge everything and kill everyone because we need a villain. But I think if people actually paid attention to the lore, that's not really the case. Brother Crowley, that rests in Light's Hope Chapel, sets you on a path for the Alliance to dismantle and pretty much get rid of the corruption that houses within the Scarlet Crusade, because he believes that the Crusade is going in a path that it's veering off the intended path, so to speak. And I fully agree with that whole idea and notion of it, where he simply just wants to help and get rid of the rot because he believes something is wrong. And he is right. He is completely right. For the Horde, it's just to clean out the monastery because they're killing us and we want it for ourselves. It's all around, both sides, point of views, tame. It's pretty good. It's I could see it. After the first round, you destroy and dismantle the monastery, and then you get quests to go and purge out Stratholme, and then Tyr's Hand, which I start leaning off of when we get to that point, because the Argent Dawn, at this point in time, has a joint ideological force that allowed them to work with the Scarlets, and it was great during Naxxramas. It was wonderful. It was well thought out. It was two light factions coming together and saying, we need to handle this issue, and handle the issue they did. They after the fall of Lord Dethrahan, the Scarlets were working and aligning with the Argent Dawn, which would later turn into the Argent Crusade with some Scarlets intended to just be there to help out wherever necessary, and obviously turn to the Argent Dawn to finalize the Argent Crusade. And it was well established, well received. It was a good idea. However, the Scarlets in the Wrath of the Lich King, where they're fighting against, the undeath, being up in the north for too long, they perceived everybody as villains, just as the same down here. Seeing the Alliance betray them, and subsequently rooted out and found out that there was another Dreadlord influencing these Scarlets, much like the ones back home, in pursuit of, power, I guess, and to try to influence people. I'm not really positive exactly what the idea was for it. It's been such a long time. But it just seems like mild manipulation. And obviously to give a threat, a human threat, in a sense, Because you have undead everywhere and you have all these different forces at play, necromancers. Obviously, you need to balance it out with some light fanatical group, which to me is the first kind of punching of the dead horse. We've dismantled them before. Surely the ones up in Northrend aren't going to be, easily pushed aside, which they are. They're completely dismantled as well, which, fair enough. That's the second time. And then in the third time, Mists of Pandaria came out. We're healing Scarlets again because the Scarlet Crusade reclaimed the monastery under new leadership and old leadership. Which far be it from me to understand why Sally Whitemane, after being canonically killed in the questline, Mograine being canonically killed in the questline, Sally comes back. It just doesn't make much sense. That's when it started veering off that path of, not really sure. And all it took after Mists of Pandaria, where they finally killed her, which to me is, I thought she was already dead, but it is what it is. And that's my first punching of the dead horse. They're just reintroducing the Scarlets at this point as a plot point and as a just dungeon to run because they have no idea what else to do. They don't know where else to go, I guess. Hard to say. Skullomance too. But Skullomance doesn't have Scarlets in it, so I don't really pay mind to it. But, it's just kind of weird. Then, in Legion, the Death Knights finally finishes off the Scarlets by going in, collecting Sally Whitemane's corpse, turning her into a horseman, promptly dismantling completely the Scarlet leadership. Everything should be done, dusted. All the Scarlets should be scattered to the winds at this point because the Death Knights had their way in there and just slaughtered everybody, tortured everybody, turned them either into Death Knight schools, anything and everything they could have done. It's completely undead, and it should be emptied out or full of undead at this point. It's done, it's finished. The Scarlet Crusade is completely dismantled, destroyed, leadership wrecked. There's no more bases, there's no more anything. And the only humans that are technically up in Lordaeron right now should be aligned with the Scarlet Crusade. That's it. And then, you don't think much about it because these guys are been dismantled 4 times already. 3 times already. They shouldn't even be a thought, right? But then you come to the Undead Heritage quest, where Blizzard yet again pulls out the corpse of the horse, half rotted, probably skeleton showing at this point, and decide to start punching it again by adding them as an antagonist, as a growing threat in mass numbers on Fenris Isle, which obviously should not be the case because the undead have already retaken Fenris Isle because of the quest line where you go and infiltrate Fenris Isle and discover that the last human remnants in Lordaeron are just taking Worgen blood, blah blah blah, becoming Worgen themselves. So at that point, you're just putting Scarlets there because of convenience, or rather, ooh, Undead had to kill Scarlets back in the day. Why don't we just bring the Scarlets back again for a fourth round? Even though nobody should be leading them at this point, the cult is the zealots are pretty much all either undead because, as rumored and as seen in Stratholme and in Tyr's hand, which is the headquarters, pretty much of what I consider the headquarters of the old remnants of Scarlets, are undead. They're already dead. There is no real legitimate reason, logistical reason why they would not be already undead. Just saying. And they punched that horse very hard to hammer in everything and supposedly finish them off again. Which, the first 3 rounds, then the Death Knights, finishing the job, should have ended there. And I think it's just frustrating that they had to bring him back again just for the undead to do it again. And now with the reclamation of Gilneas around the corner and screenshots that I've seen personally from the Gilneas thing, suggests that the Scarlets have holed it up in Gilneas too. What? Why? The Forsaken should have completely overran Gilneas, and then obviously the plague in the city. Gilneas is plagued. The Forsaken completely routed the Worgen out of the area when the Worgen left for Tedrasil. It should be a completely undead place. Why are the Scarlets there now? I don't like Blizzard pulling shit like this out of their ass and expecting me, personally, or really anybody who plays Scarlets, or just, normal players who actually pay attention to the lore and look back and realize, they just keep pulling these guys out their own ass and saying, oh yeah, they're still around, even though we've shown you tons of times where they're completely decimated, shattered, broken, undead, everything and anything, 1,000 Ways to Die style, but yet they're still alive. Huh? It's like Blizzard can't make up their mind. Are they still a threat? If they're still around, where are they holed up? What's the main catalyst of humans coming up here to do this? To me, there's not enough lore to suggest why they're still alive, and to me, it's just them pulling it out of their ass because Scarlet Crusade's bad. That's all I could ever really think about. I roleplay as Scarlet because my Scarlets have seen these events, bore witness to the slaughter, the genocide, the corruption, everything that's happened to the Scarlets, and decided, maybe we should lead in a different direction. And Blizzard not leading them into a different direction by now shows that they really have no creative thought. You give somebody like Brother Crowley and his deacon, I believe, you put them together and you see a faction of Scarlets that are willing to think twice about, being zealous by judging everybody and anybody as being potential undead. The paranoia subsides, and the worry is gone. And to me, I like that motive. Because I'm pretty sure any functioning Scarlet Crusader, any functioning human mind, bears witness to genocide 3 times, 4 times even. Watching your leaders get completely decimated, shattered, broken, everything and anything, just, again, 1,000 Ways to Die style. Your main head, Inquisitor, being reanimated as a Death Knight, that should be more than enough to go, if I want to keep this going, I should probably reevaluate my life a little bit. And maybe, just maybe, think about my actions before I do them. Better yet, why am I still choosing to go against the world when I don't have to? You know, it's one of those. Do these people not think? Is is Blizzard sending a message that every zealous religious folk is just narrow-minded, dim-witted, dumb, and closed-minded to the idea of change, or anything of that nature? I mean, Catholics were like that, true, until the Christian Reformation happened, and Christians started popping up, and Catholics deemed them as false, until the war, Holy Reformation, where they finally recognized them. Like, and they broke away because they saw the corruption of the Catholic Church during the time and thought we can do this better and not have to worry about it, right? Why can't the Scarlets undergo some sort of same treatment? Where a group of Scarlets just sit back and go, you know, we should really reevaluate and think about our next moves because the world kind of hates us right now and there is not much we can do. You know, to me, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. And that's why my guild, the Brotherhood, or the Scarlet Crusade, well, Scarlet Brotherhood on retail, and the Scarlet Crusade on Lava Lash, on Season of Discovery as I'm playing right now. As you can see, the footage I'm using here. We're a guild that seeks out to change, understanding that there is an underlying threat within the Crusade and trying to purge the rot, to uproot the evil so that we can make the order more pure and justified and less closed-minded and more open-minded. And that's why my guild takes in anybody who is willing to have their character see the light in a way and understand that we're trying to change. We're doing anything and everything in our power to just keep ourselves alive and keep a positive change in the world around us. In the Brotherhood on retail, post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, most of the stories that our characters in our guild are usually people who have seen the worst, seen the rise and fall and to learn from it, but still having to deal with the trauma of witnessing the horrors that the Alliance and Horde has inflicted onto the Crusade itself multiple times. And we fear that if we do not change, we'll be next on the chopping block. And there is a lot of guilds, mind you, on Moonguard, and formerly on Warm Rest Accord. To my knowledge, our Warm Rest guild is pretty much the only Scarlet guild I've seen in a long time, like well over a year and a half. The Moonguard Crusade, from my knowledge, is very much rooted in the old ways where they just hate everybody. They're just the same old Scarlet Crusade antagonist villains of the game. And I'm not a big fan of it. I think Scarlet Crusade guilds that follow that kind of, old style traditionalism of, oh, I'm the bad guy, fear me or, respect me in a way that I demand, is stupid, closed-minded, ignorant, and absolutely just, when will you learn, right? That some of the actions that you are portraying have consequences, and you become a very, very, very dark stain on the rug when people crush you with the notions of calling you everything underneath the sun. And I find it abhorrent that people like that in retail, with the timeline as it is, still holds that value. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Why any Scarlet Guild would even consider keeping the old ways and just doing it because we want to be the bad guys. It doesn't make much sense to me. It just does not seem at all like a good idea. I mean, sure, I guess keep the old ways alive, I guess, but you can do a lot better at it. You know, it's just my little rant, and it's people like them that fuel this fire to players that the Scarlet Crusade is unredeemable, that they can never change, that Blizzard will obviously never change them to become good people because it does not suit the narrative of the majority of players. It's boring. It's obnoxious. It's lazy. You create a light faction to be antagonistic while every other light faction underneath the sun in WoW is good guys, but this light faction is the bad guys because they take it too far. Or rather, they were led by dreadlords that made them kill their fellow man and everybody else because they were told to. And that's where the whole, World War II villains come into play. And that's all people ever think about Scarlet as, is that, well, from Twitter I've seen where they're also doing the Syndicate has the same thing, which makes no sense too, and that's a whole other rant. The Syndicate are not an organized faction of people that are bad guys from World War II or deem some sort of racial thing, whatever. They're not. They're literally just bandits and people who just lost their home and are just turned to thievery. frankly, that's all they are. They're a big thief organization that the Ravenhold have been trying to get rid of because they're just a group of highwaymen and warlocks that are just set on destruction of property and everything else. They're not a group of organized individuals that have ulterior motives of any nature of that sort. It's mind-boggling to me how people can make that distinction, or how role players try to make that distinction. But back on topic with the Scarlets. I get it. You need a bad guy. Make a new one. The Scarlets are pretty much dismantled and dead at this point. What is stopping Blizzard from creating a light faction that does not have Scarlet as the main centerpiece? What's stopping them from creating zealots that follow Terrellian, for example? Terrellian's a light-forged human who is completely enamored by the light and will do anything for the light. And I believe that he would even purge Stormwind if he wanted to, or if he was told to by Anaru. To purge the city because of all the warlocks, of all of the shady people, of the Minari that was just now released into Stormwind. I mean, Moonguard, anybody who actually seen it on Twitter, Moonguard role players were legitimately taking up arms against their fellow role players for choosing Minari Eridar and wanting to RP battle them and purge them out of the city, to genocide them. Warriors of the Light factions of guilds wanted to do a mass genocide against Minari players. It seems like the Warriors of the Light, these are not even Scarlet guilds, these are just light guilds. It goes to show that even RPers can make factions that could make a better antagonist of a light component than the Scarlet Crusaders. Just my opinion, obviously. It's just my thought. And that's just how I believe, right? It's just what I believe. And I find it lazy writing that Blizzard cannot come up with a better idea than Scarlet's. They've ran the Scarlet narrative into the ground for the past nearly 20 years. 20 years of using the same light antagonist faction, the Scarlet Crusade, as a centerpiece for a reason why the light has antagonists in their faction. Get creative, Blizzard. The Army of Lights are pretty crazy people. Uriel. That's another crazy light faction. Uriel did a purge on Draenor, an alternate Draenor, after we left. Orcs were either to submit to the light or die. And the Magyar chose not to give in. Well, the remaining ones chose not to give in and fight, and has noted to say that orcs did go out and fight and die, protecting their values of shamanism, their totemistic religions, their orcish religions, just to keep those traditions strong. And just for having those views, Uriel's light army, exarchs, all those people, deemed those villages purged, to kill them because they did not accept the light. Just saying. Blizzard, you set up a antagonistic force. You have not capitalized it since letting the Magyar into the faction. I think it's about time to bring them through. Just saying. It seems appropriate to do it. It's about time. Because Scarlet Crusade is well and over. It's done. It's dusted. They don't exist anymore. And the more you bring them back, the more you're beating a dead horse until people get bored or start seeing that maybe there is some sense within these factions of Scarlets that make them appealing and have players dig into it, and then suddenly you have a lot of players who now turn to the Scarlet Crusade as being an underdog good guys that are misunderstood. Unless you want to have that narrative, you're gonna get that narrative. You know. It's just how it's going to play out. And if they don't realize that they beat this dead horse enough, there could be some unforeseen consequences within the RP community in particular. The normal community and the PvP community, the raid community, they don't really necessarily care. They'll fight whatever gets pushed in front of them. But our peers, on the other hand, are different. Our peers have a brain for lore and knowledge to try to look in between the lines. You beat them enough, you get people that are like, maybe they're not doing anything wrong. Maybe Blizzard has no idea what they're doing, and that these guys are just severely being beaten down for their views. And then you'll have, advocate-minded people thinking that it's not justified or is justifiable. Then you'll have debates in the forums again, like usual. Yeah, it's fun times. But it's just something to think about, right? It's my personal rant, and there are going to be people who agree, and there will be people who disagree. I get that. But it's just, I don't like how overused it is. Like, I don't mind them being antagonists. I don't mind them being the way they are. I just don't like how they keep getting brought back. Like, at the end of every quest line that involves Scarlets, it usually gives a hint that this will put the nail in the coffin, and it never puts the nail in the coffin. I don't think my defense of the Scarlets is a pro-Scarlet move. It's a pro-creative move, right? Do something else is all I'm asking, because you keep digging up this corpse as the Scarlet Crusade. You put a quest line with it, final nail in the coffin, done, dusted. NPCs mention that maybe this will put it to an end, but it never does. Quit bringing them back is all I'm saying. And if you're gonna bring them back, At least put something else in it other than just killing them. Oh, Scarlet's came back for the third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time. We might as well put them down because they cannot be reasoned with. They can't be talked to. They can't be heard or listened or anything of that nature. They just gotta be put down. And with the undead heritage, Kalia is trying to work with Gilneas, with Gen, or Gen's daughter, one of them, to rebuild Lordaeron, to rebuild Gilneas, to make a better home for both the Forsaken and the Gilneans. This is a peaceful, just build up to peace, and the Forsaken standing by with the idea of we should be making diplomatic ties with humans because they were once our family, they were once this, they were once that. Scarlets, on the other hand, have to die. Now, from my knowledge, Scarlets are just the remnants of the Silver Hand, which are remnants now of Lordaeron, which means there could be a lot of Scarlet warriors, a lot of Scarlet zealots, and a lot of Scarlet everything in that group that have to be relatives of Forsaken. And you're telling these people that you're telling these Forsaken that these people, these Scarlets who are probably, potentially, family relatives of other Forsaken, that they need to die 6 feet under. They cannot be reasoned with. Oh, it's like you're talking to a Forsaken, civilian and saying, well, the Scarlet Crusade's back. I know that your daughter or your son is part of the organization as a zealot or as a centurion or a, official ranking member. And we have to kill him because he's unreasonable. And that he has a view that is unjustifiable that seeks your extinction. Even though their leaders have died, the brainwashing is probably ceased. They're not being swayed underneath dark magics anymore because we've uprooted that. No, he cannot be reasoned with. He needs to die. And I know it's hard for you to hear this, but it's the only logical conclusion we have because we can't talk to them. Or we don't want to talk to them because of their views. That's a bad precedent. Just saying. It's not an ideal precedent that I like. I think with the Forsaken Heritage quest, what I think should have happened, instead of just wiping them out, is when you have to disguise as a Scarlet Crusader, when you disguise as them, I think it's only fair that you have the options to talk to them and to try to find a peaceful way to finish the idea, the plot, everything, and not just outright kill them because Scarlets are bad. To me, it just seemed reasonable to make friends, allies, to reconcile old hatreds, to make a better Lordaeron and a better Gilneas and a better kingdom. Have undead, have humans come together and realize that they can work together. That they can hold and foster some friendships or reconnections and stuff like that. It's the probable, most logical sense of mind that I have in regards to the Scarlets, and that is my final statement on it. Because I think the Scarlets can be saved. And I think Blizzard is just too goddamn uncreative and lazy to realize that they can do these things because they want to hold a narrative that because they're crazy zealot light bringers that they need to die. And that's my final point, you know. And that's kind of rough up my whole rant on the whole Scarlet thing because I think it's just unjustifiable that we have been in this game for 20 years and there have been what classic Wrath of the Lich King, Mist of Pandaria, Legion, and now Dragonflight, where we have Scarlet involvement, and all of them have to be justifiably killed in quotation marks because they're bad people that cannot be reasoned with, that they're just lost, that these humans have lost their humanity, even though we've killed the ringleaders, the people who have swayed them onto the wrong path, and perhaps have a chance of redemption that we'll never give them because it doesn't fit the narrative that we want to have here at Blizzard. Just craziness to me. It is. It's just completely crazy to me that I don't know. It's just dumb. In my personal opinion, it's dumb. And with that, I will end this video off for today. I'd like to thank everybody for watching the video. Please leave a comment. I know this video has just been a rant video, and I'm sure I'll probably get comments on this. But do leave a comment. I want to know what you say. And to subscribe, like the video, and everything else. And until next time, my friends.